Welcome to the Fair and Greed Business Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. Australia's banks each have their own reputations and their own specialties. Commonwealth Bank, for example, has the largest share of the home lending market. National Australia Bank has long been known for its business banking, and it's pushing hard into small business. Today, I wanted to talk to the person responsible for that part of National Australia Bank to find out why NAB outperforms and what the bank is seeing in that arena. Ana Marinkovic is the Executive General Manager, Small Business Bank at National Australia Bank. Anna, welcome to Fair and Greed.
Thank you very much, Sean.
So how are small businesses faring right now?
Look, it's very much a double-speed economy that small businesses are operating in. We have about half of our small businesses doing extremely well, having adapted to the changing environment and circumstances post-COVID. And then we have another half of our portfolio where those businesses across the country require quite a bit of help and assistance to be able to continue to be sustainable. So whilst at NAB, we continue to support over 1.1 million small business customers with 1,600 dedicated staff across some 500 locations, we are lending at the moment some $1.2 billion a month. We're also super conscious about the need to continue to support those customers that are finding it tough. And what we are seeing there is this continued pressure, Sean, coming with higher inflation, interest rate increases, continuous labour shortages, as well as disrupted supply chains and ever-increasing prices of inputs.
Okay, so if you've got a sort of a split two-sector part of the small business economy, are there any traits that are more common in the ones doing better or similarly more traits common in the ones doing not so well? That might be geographies, might be industry. What are you seeing?
Look, what we are seeing is that essential services continue to do really well. However, travel, hospitality, and discretionary type products and services are those that Australians are being a lot more considered when it comes to their spend. We know that groceries, petrol, mortgages, rent, electricity, gas, all of those items have gone up. So what we are seeing is that subsequently, a whole lot of small businesses are seeing their revenues decrease as a result.
Okay. You mentioned shortage of workers in that. That is a big problem for small businesses at the moment?
Certainly is. And it is one of the biggest concerns for small business owners. When we talk to them about the key challenges that they face, labour shortages tend to be in the top three. And whilst we have seen, particularly in metro areas of Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane and Perth, while we've seen a level of easing with the incoming foreign students and opening up of our borders, regional and rural Australia continues to face into significant challenges in that space. I was visiting a customer in rural South Australia recently, a potato farm, where they were paying $95 an hour for pickers. And
wow.
that kind of tells you what these small farmers, the choices that they have to make around, do I leave my produce to rot or do I pay to take it out and try to get some return on it? So those are the real issues that I suppose don't get a lot of media coverage, but do impact a material number of small businesses out there.
We talk a lot about cyber risk at the moment, and we've seen it with Optus and Medibank and places like that. Is it something that small businesses, firstly, are aware of, and secondly, are they feeling the impact of hackers at the moment?
Absolutely. What our research shows is that 3 in 10 Australian small businesses have experienced a cyber attack or a data breach. and losses on average are estimated at about $19,000. So we are dedicating a great deal of resources to try to help out our customers deal with the cyber criminals. I think another issue for smaller businesses, smaller organizations, is that they do not necessarily have the kind of IT and tech and risk management resources that larger organizations do. So keeping abreast of developments and educating themselves across the most common scams, which center around remote access scams and investment scams and romance scams and phishing, it is so important that that is top of mind for them.
Stay with me, Anna. We'll be back in a minute. My guest this morning is Ana Marinkovic, Executive General Manager, Small Business Bank at National Australia Bank. What's the prognosis for the small business sector over the next 12 months to 18 months? With a bit of luck, inflation has peaked, interest rate hikes, there may be another one in the offing, but we're kind of getting towards the top. Do things look better for the sector in the next 1, 2, 3 years?
Look, in the immediate term, 2024 is going to be harder. We see that many Australians are under increased financial pressures. And whilst we do remain optimistic, we have one of the best performing economies in the world in spite of these challenges, we do have to be congruent to the fact that there are a lot of families out there that are finding it tough. What that also means is that customers are changing their behavior. They are making considered changes to their spending. And that, of course, has a flow through to many of our small business customers in particular. And as I mentioned earlier, impacts on their revenue lines. But there are also plenty of reasons to be super confident that things will turn positive toward the latter half of next year. A big factor there is that our unemployment remains near its lowest level in decades. We also know that our natural resources are a great export opportunity. And, there are many businesses with ambitions to grow. As I said, we lend over $1.2 billion to small businesses each month. So the spirit of entrepreneurship is certainly strong.
Okay. So with that as a background, if I want to go into a small business, create my own small business, what should I be thinking about? What are the things, what's the advice you would give someone who thinks they've got a great idea and wants to start a small business? What are some of the things they should be thinking up front?
Well, they need to be thinking about educating themselves on the opportunity, the market, the environment, the competition, point of differentiation. How are their products and services going to be competitive to what is already in the market? Having a really, really strong business plan, understanding what government grants they could potentially get, but also then building a strong relationship with their bank and making sure that they are planning in a way that is sustainable and that can withstand a number of different shocks, be it continuous interest rate rises or, again, as we talked about, labor shortages, or they need to think about having an alternative manufacturing and supply chains. So it is so important to think really, really holistically and to be quite conservative in your projections. And also to keep, one of the things that is quite unique in Australia, Sean, is that Australian small businesses tend to utilize the equity in their homes to prop up their businesses and their cash flows. And it is something that at NAB we actually strongly discourage. I think it is really important that anyone going into small business or already established small business owners really keep their personal and business finances separate, because it is just important to ensure that risk mitigation and that the well-being of the family does come first, because we have seen some examples where those things don't end up well.
Now, just before you go, I've got to ask you, Anna, because your story itself is fantastic. You arrived in Australia as a refugee from Serbia when you were 12. You've had this great career, and I know that diversity and inclusion are very important to you. Also, focus on mentoring and supporting other women to reach their career goals. You're a successful example of that within the finance sector. Is the finance sector getting better at gender balance?
Well, yes, it's certainly getting better. I do not think
It's not
we
there
are
yet.
quite there yet,
Yeah.
but it certainly is getting a lot better. I'd say, many professionals change countries in pursuit of their career goals. Obviously, my story is quite different, and my transition to Australia was obviously for different reasons. As you said, I was only 12 years old when I was separated from my family. But I also want to say that is where Australia is such a unique country, where that opportunity and access to education and development is second to none. I was given opportunities to learn, to grow and lead, and that is something that I'm incredibly grateful for. And I think that my journey is a really good example of why we are a really lucky country indeed.
Anna, thank you for talking to Fear and Greed.
Thank you very much for having me.
That was Ana Marinkovic, Executive General Manager, Small Business Bank at National Australia Bank. This is the Fear and Greed Business Interview. Join us every morning for the full episode of Fear and Greed, Australia's best business podcast. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.